Welcome everyone to Next Gen Vision. Today I'm excited to have Rushi Manche on the show. He is the co-founder of Movement Labs. Rushi, welcome to the channel.
Hey, Nassim, really appreciate you having me on. Super excited to be here today.
Awesome. So Rushi, you're quite a young guy. You're co-founded Movement Labs. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background into how you got to where you are? I know there's an exciting story with Facebook that I'd love to hear
Yep.
about.
Yeah, so I'm Rushi, one of the co-founders of Movement. Kind of my background is engineering and distributed systems. Started my career early on in like the Ethereum and Cosmos ecosystem, writing Solidity and Cosmosm. Around August 2022, I was in college at the time and read this article that said Facebook was building a new programming language for blockchains. And for me, this is very exciting because I was used to very few users on Ethereum and Cosmos, and here was opportunity for Facebook to bring literally $1 billion in research and development, as well as billions of users to crypto. So that started the move thesis for me back in August 2022. I built a decentralized exchange on Aptos, one of the layer ones that came out of the DM program. And my co-founder was also early Aptos builder. November 2022, post FTX, we started Movement. Our general thesis was to bring the Move VM to Ethereum and see broader adoption for that. So I think to date, we've been one of the more successful layer one, layer two systems, and um, happy to chat more about that today.
All right, awesome. So I was actually at in Korea, and then I went to the Aptos experience. That was actually such an awesome event. How much have you actually worked with Mo Shai?
Yeah, I mean, Aptos Labs as an investor, I think it's very complementary in terms of pushing forward the development of the Move language. Architecturally, we are different in that Aptos is a layer one with their own consensus mechanism and settlement mechanism. We inherit Ethereum security through layer two. So I would say we're pretty close to the team, do a lot of work together on DevRel. We're doing an event together, DevCon together. So I think generally we're pretty supportive.
Okay, nice. So before we actually get into what Movement Labs itself does, just on this Aptos link. So Aptos is one of your investors. Also, congrats. I saw you had a couple months back a $38 million fundraising round. That's awesome. So Aptos is one of the investors. Now, Aptos is its own layer one, and you provide scaling solutions and obviously the Move programming language onto Ethereum. What incentive does Aptos sort of have in order to invest in Movement Labs?
I think for them, the goal is the evangelism and spreading of the Move language. So I think one thing that we're inherently pretty good at is building community and building ecosystem up. So with the launch of the current Move L1s, it was very difficult for there to be organic and Web3 native community. So the thesis behind Aptos and Sui supporting movement is we're bringing younger, more Web3 native, this degen kind of mentality to the movie ecosystem. I think generally it's like pretty complimentary. We've done a lot of mind share work together, and I think Apta sees us as a partner, especially in the Ethereum space, where we want to move everywhere. There's move on Bitcoin, like with Nexio. There's move on Ethereum, which is what we're working on. There's move on Ton, which is Tonic. So across the board, we're seeing a pretty big impact.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so I would like to actually dive a little bit into your thoughts on inter blockchain connectivity. But before we get into that, Movement Labs, sort of a simple breakdown of what you guys offer, what the key products are, and like who should care.
Yeah, so Movement Labs is building Movement, the first Move EVM layer 2 on Ethereum. Our thesis is we want to bring high throughput execution and fast finality settlement to Ethereum based blockchains. We do that by bringing the Move VM that originated from Facebook's DM program and spread off to Aptos and Sui, bringing that to Ethereum to layer 2, and then making even compatible. So the best way to think about it is like Move and EVM on Ethereum. Some of the benefits of Move include high throughput execution with parallelization. Parallelization is kind of a hot topic in that everyone has been talking about it, and it seems like the standard going forward. And then beyond that, what we're seeing is security. Every year, there's $4.5 billion lost in smart contract security. Movement aims to be the most secure and highest throughput layer 2 on Ethereum.
All right. So that's really great. Now, the Solidity being one of obviously the first programming languages to create smart contracts, how do you see
Yep.
the evolution of sort of smart contract coding languages developing? Because there's obviously this idea of the first one, and then it's kind of established itself, but maybe it's not perfect. Then you get the move, which is developed at a later stage, which might have more security, just overall a better programming language. Do you see there
Yep.
constantly being iterations and improvement, or how do you see that playing out?
I think we see like Solidity was the first programming language to for crypto basically. It's a lot like PHP for Web 2 in that everyone knows that it wasn't the best, but it provided some of the first blockchains and websites. Um, Today we have Rust-based programming, which is the Solana virtual machine and Move virtual machine. The best analogy is that Rust is to JavaScript and React and Vue, which are two main libraries on the JavaScript language, are like SVM and MoveVM. So to that extent, I think we see Solana and the Move really skyrocket. This year, monthly active developers around 7.5%, which is double from last year, which was 3% last year. And next year, it's expected to be around 13 to 14%. So the market share for Move developers is actually rapidly growing, and we envision the future of programming to be Move.
All right. So on that, how do you see interoperability between blockchains sort of developing? Now you decided to obviously create your layer two using the Move programming language on top of
Yep.
Ethereum. Why Ethereum? Why not Solana? What's the consensus behind that?
I think the way we look at it and think about it is Ethereum is still the global compute layer in that it has the most amount of TVL for settlement layers, besides Bitcoin, obviously. It has really good programmability, a lot of good infrastructure. Um, so the current Ethereum scaling roadmap is a bunch of layer twos that are very slow and clunky. Um, so our thesis is bringing this high throughput VM to Ethereum. And in terms of interop, we have multiple partners like Layer Zero, Wormhole, Hyperlane, as well as we have our own shared sequencer, which we're building called M1, where we envision a world where there'll be multiple rollups, whether it's move on Bitcoin, move on Ethereum, move on uh, Tron, etc., gaming rollups, DeFi rollups, and they all want to do interop between each other. So the point of movement M1 sequencer is to share state across different rollups, so that if you are a bridge or you're doing any kind of interops between movement chains, all you need to do is read state from the share sequencer itself, instead of like clients for each individual layer 2, which is much more computationally expensive, which I'm happy to get more into. But TLDRs, we believe in a multi-chain future. We're building a shared sequencer to enable better interop and then interop and then do interop between that.
All right, awesome. So I think a big focus there is making interoperability easier between the different blockchains and between different like layer twos on Ethereum.
Yep.
All right, awesome. And then now, in your future of looking at interoperability between, let's say, different layer ones, so you've got like Aptos, then you've got Solana, then you have Ethereum. How do you sort of foresee the interoperability developing there?
I think like Wormhole, Layer Zero, and some of these other bridging providers are doing majority of the volume between like Ethereum, Solana, Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum to Ethereum based rollups. So I think in terms of interop, that will remain for the short to midterm. I think what I'm really interested in is intent based matching orders. So we have a few some projects called like Gaxel, which is doing intent based solving across different chains and L1s and L2s. We have a team called Twine that's doing shared settlement, where you can do settle transactions in multiple layer ones and layer twos. Yeah.
All right, exciting. And now into the future of Movement Labs, what sort of developments are you excited about? What are like some of the biggest problems that you see in the horizon, and how do you plan to tackle them?
Yeah. So one of the things we're putting a lot of resources to is finality. We believe that throughput is a commodity, in that there's like 5 billion parallel EVMs, SVMs, move VMs, but time to finality is still lacking in that ZK proofs are computationally expensive. Optimus fraud proofs are 7-day withdrawal times. The move VM is uniquely positioned with high throughput execution and with our concept of fast post confirmations, we can essentially enable fast finality for rollups. So imagine extremely fast throughput and extremely fast finality while living on Ethereum.
All right, awesome. And then I see that, yeah, so we mentioned that you guys raised $38 million dollars in your round A funding.
Yeah.
Um, like, I've always been curious about this with different, like, sort of crypto projects. How is the amount to be raised defined? And then how do you plan to obviously distribute those funds? So, which sort of sectors do you
Yep.
focus on?
Yeah, so there's a few different areas that capital formation is used for. I'd say first and foremost is research and development. We are building a cutting edge blockchain. There's a lot of key hires in terms of engineering and research that's needed to happen. So we're putting a lot of resources into developing the chain itself, developing kind of the infrastructure and tooling around the chain. So that's the main focus of ours. And I think beyond that, there's a lot of marketing. Like we were pretty big at Korea, token, etc. Um, and I think we're just gonna keep the momentum going. So the capital is usually in terms of driving go to market and engineering, but it's also a use like paying salaries and stuff.
All right, awesome. And then, so you guys were quite big at KBW, so Korea Blockchain Week. We were there as well. You guys obviously big partners with Korea Blockchain Week. You had a massive
Yep.
stage there. And then at Token, I'm not sure what your involvement was there, but you also attended. How
Yep.
were those conferences for you? So not just specific to Movement Labs, but given your experience at these conferences, and you've obviously been to many conferences through the years,
Yep.
how do you sort of see the crypto blockchain space developing, pros and cons?
I think the infrastructure fatigue has really hit for conferences because there's like 500 side events, and no one's really going to these side events, and it feels like the same old concepts over and over again. So I think even personally, I've tried to stay away from going to a lot of these events because the ROI is increasingly decreasingly over time, because the same people that but also like the same concepts going back and forth. I think the market itself is also like undervaluing infrastructure, or and wants to focus more on consumer apps and novel ideas. Even like we're seeing a rise of meme coins and the speculative focus on like fun nature tokens instead of like deep infrastructure. So I think going forward, like we're seeing a lot of focus from us, especially on focusing on cool apps, ecosystem builders, community, because actually that's what people like instead of the same talks that no one actually pays attention to.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then from obviously you guys having attended these events, what sort of outcomes were you hoping for Movement Labs, and did you sort of meet your expectation? Did it fall a bit short?
Yeah, I think we met expectation, and we were one of the biggest teams and presences of both conferences. We're gearing up for a pretty big mainnet, so I think across the board we're pushing forward.
Is there a specific reason you were targeting sort of the Asian markets, or are you going for a global approach?
I think, well, that particular set of conferences was very focused in Asia. Even like DevCon coming up is more focused on Southeast Asia. So it's kind of like a circumstance of like the timing of the year where there's a lot of Asia conferences booked together. But I think generally it's like Asia is a big market in terms of developer growth. Move is particularly big in Korea, and Southeast Asia, so we're seeing a big demand there. Yeah.
Okay. And the Movement Labs team, how big is it, and approximately where is everyone situated?
We're 42 deep, based in San Francisco. So mostly like half R&D and researchers, and engineers, and other half is like executive marketing, media, etc.
All right, cool. And then the looking back at sort of your crypto journey to where you've come, what are the biggest sort of takeaway points you've had, and what would you sort of do differently if you could go back and
Yep.
change things?
Well, I think like we started in like the depths of a bear market, like literally the week after FTX collapsed. So what I would do is probably start a little bit earlier when it was like a little bit better market, so it would have been more fun for everyone involved. But yeah, I think generally we learned a lot through trial and experience. So one of the big things I think we pride ourselves on is like when we first started off, just try your best, figure it out, learn mistakes, hire folks that are very committed and get the game, and like are very independent. So I think that was kind of the first few learning areas, like where we made a lot of mistakes. We had a lot of people say no to us. I was like, when we were first fundraising, it was very difficult for us to fundraise because bad market, but also like we were college dropouts. Um, but I think now we kind of built up a brand and presence.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely a perseverance thing that's quite critical.
Yep.
Given that you guys are quite a young team, who or which sort of projects would you say sort of were the best guiders for you? So who provided
Yep.
you support, who provided you guidance,
Yep.
who helped make this a success?
Yeah, I mean, currently the majority of the team is pretty experienced. That's like the average age on teams like 30 to 40, 35 to 40. Um, like we have pretty deep tech researchers and engineers. I would say when we started off, there was a few major mentors, like obviously early investors that kind of guided our way, but also was really paying attention to like a bearish unique system. Smokey was a good friend and learned a lot from what they were doing over there. Also a lot from like the Aptos and Sweek system in terms of technical competency. So kind of mixing the degen elements of current layer ones, layer twos, as well as the technical aspects that make it really great.
Okay, awesome. And now you've got your mainnet launch coming up. When are we to expect that?
We're targeting end of the year. Obviously, a lot to do, and hopefully the market improves a little bit. But yeah, end of the year.
I think everyone is quite bullish for October, November, December.
Yep,
I suppose as long as it follows historical routes, it should be. It should.
yep.
There
Hopefully,
definitely at least won't be another FTX crash to
yep, yep.
to figure
Hopefully
out right.
not.
And how's the testnet? The testnet has been out for a while. How's that been? Any
It
sort
test
of
has been out for like 7 weeks. I think we crossed like 7 million active addresses, a few hundred million transactions. We have over 57 apps on the testnet. So I'd say in general a lot of volume on the testnet activity. And I think it was really cool to see all the ecosystem apps come live and people use them.
all right? And any big kinks in this testnet, or is it kind of for the most part going as it should?
I think one thing is like there's a lot of obviously traffic, so is managing RPC demand. We're having fixes constantly on managing workloads and throughputs, but I think generally pretty smooth sailing.
Okay, and how does it feel? You've put a lot of work in your layer two, which is quite a big feat, right? Like, I mean, you're integrating Move
Yep,
with EVM, which is kind of
yep,
massive. How does it
yep.
feel that it's about to go live?
It's kind of surreal, I would say. We've been working on it for over 2 years now, so it's cool to see it come live, and more importantly, ecosystem coming live. So yeah, it means a lot to us.
And how's the morale within the team?
I think it's pretty high. Like everyone's really excited for what we're working on. I feel like everyone's independent and leading their own charges, and functionally, everyone's like working like a co-founder. So um, I think we're really blessed, to have a really good team.
That's awesome. Are you guys going to do some sort of celebration thereafter, or just
Hopefully,
just?
hopefully that's the goal.
I imagine there'll still be a sufficient amount of work to do once it gets
Yep,
launched.
yep, yep. Always.
Nice. And upcoming events that you plan on going to? Will you be going to DevCon?
We'll be going DEF CON, having a pretty big presence there, focus more on the developer ecosystem. Yeah,
Yeah, I suppose the DevCon would be quite a big one for you guys because you are
yep,
more so targeting developers as opposed to
yep,
the average retail user.
yep.
Nice. Is there anything else you want our viewers to know about? Any upcoming things?
Yep. We have Mainnet coming up soon. Some key apps I'm super excited for. We have over 11 teams that have raised part of the collective, which is our native accelerator for supporting teams. Some cool apps that have raised are like Meridian, which is Liquid Hub and staking, Echelon, which is lending market, Helix, which is essentially alternative asset vaults. We have Surge coming up, which is Move Roll Up the Service, Up Network, which is a mobile deep network. So I think whether it's like DeFi, deepen, consumer, which is like brackets, I'm one really excited about. We've seen a big demand for movement ecosystem projects.
Nice. Can you just emphasize a little bit more on the collective? I see that's been
Yep.
quite
So
quite a bit of focus on that.
yeah, so I think we want to support our core builders in terms of fundraising, getting a market, etc. And one thing we're accomplishing that through is like helping the fundraise with the first original seed funding and positioning them in market. So we have over 11 teams that have raised, and I think generally across the board we're pushing forward.
So the user there would be obviously some sort of development team that want to create an app or something using
Yep.
the M2, and then you
Yep.
would firstly do you just do like a sort of vetting process where you check through their project, make sure that it's sufficiently
Yep.
legit, can succeed, and then
Yep.
based on that
Yep.
you decide on the funding.
Yep. It's not us giving funding. We have a syndicate of investors who invest in the ecosystem. So we'll share the deal flow, position them, help them do pitch decks, build up community, build up marketing, do PR, etc.
Cool. Are there any from these 11 projects that you've already assisted with funding? Are there any particular ones that you're super excited about?
Yeah, I think Meridian is going to be like our liquidity hub, which is kind of like DEX, liquid staking, MEV. The raise around 4 million, led by Verify and Borderless. Um, Then we have like Echelon, which lending markets. I think the deep inside up network is super cool. It's a mobile deep phone network. So imagine like the Solana Saga and Android phones with moving apps. Um, and then on the gaming side, we have Moxie, which is like right now you play about like Fortnite or Call of Duty. Imagine you could do contests for that all with crypto. So working with the team on rolling out major partnerships there. And on the consumer side, like I think Bracket is going to be one of the biggest prediction markets in the next few weeks.
I'm assuming that the collective obviously is not just aiming to raise funds for these projects, but you guys also provide more guidance and sort of
Yep. Yep.
support.
It's more of like acceleration, incubation, etc.
Nice. And how have you felt the sort of onboarding of the developers? Are they quite enthusiastic about the space? Are they providing good
Yep.
feedback? Or
I think they're very enthusiastic. I think we're building out a pretty good community with supportive, nurturing, good developers and ecosystem. So I think the hype for movement has been only increasing.
all right, awesome. Then Rushi, I'm going to leave a link to obviously Movement Labs
Yep.
and also the collective if there are any developers who do want to look at getting involved there. Is there
Cool.
any sort of other platforms for information that you think is relevant?
Not at the moment, I think. Like you can follow me at Rushi Manche on Twitter, follow us at Movement Labs XYZ, and stay tuned for more information.
Yeah, I saw you guys also have quite a few blog posts on your website, which is kind of
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Proper
We have a
in
lot of
depth.
technical blog posts. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. All right, awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the
Cool.
show. Look forward to
Thanks
the
so much,
next
Yassine.
one.
Really appreciate your time.
Awesome.